What if someone you knew, a friend, a colleague, a neighbor, wasn't entirely human? What if they looked like us, spoke like us, lived among us, but their DNA told a different story? That's not science fiction. That's the claim made by researchers, military insiders, and a Harvard professor who risked his career to investigate it. I'm James Thorne. Every source I reference tonight is publicly documented. Books you can read, testimony you can verify, congressional hearings you can watch. What you make of it is up to you. In 1992, a man named David Jacobs published a book called Secret Life through Simon & Schuster. Jacobs was an associate professor of history at Temple University, 40 years on faculty, PhD from the University of Wisconsin. In it, he documented accounts of UFO abductions gathered through hypnotic regression sessions with hundreds of individuals. The procedure was always the same. The subject would lie down, close their eyes, and Jacobs would guide them backward through their memory. He was searching for the moments they couldn't account for. Missing time. Hours that had simply vanished. And what came back, according to Jacobs, followed a disturbing pattern across unrelated subjects. His conclusion was extraordinary. The abductions weren't random. According to Jacobs, they were part of a systematic program with a specific goal: the creation of human-alien hybrids. He described what he called a 5-stage process: selection, reproductive procedures, genetic manipulation, hybrid development, and integration into human society. He published this through one of the largest publishers in the world. Around the same time, artist Budd Hopkins reached similar conclusions independently. Hopkins was a respected abstract expressionist who exhibited alongside Rothko and de Kooning. He published Intruders in 1987, documenting a woman he called Kathy Davis. According to Hopkins, Davis described reproductive procedures during abductions and was later shown what she believed were hybrid children. The case became so well known that CBS turned it into a primetime miniseries in 1992. But it was the Linda Cordell case in 1989 that pushed Hopkins further into the spotlight. A woman claims she was floated out of her 12th floor Manhattan apartment window, witnessed by multiple people, including, allegedly, 2 Secret Service agents. Hopkins spent years investigating the claim. The case remains one of the most debated in abduction research. Believers cite the multiple witnesses. Skeptics point to inconsistencies in the testimony. The hybrid concept entered mainstream culture. And then came John Mack, professor of psychiatry at Harvard Medical School, head of the department, Pulitzer Prize winner for his biography of T.E. Lawrence. In 1994, he published Abduction: Human Encounters with Aliens, 13 case studies of contact experiences. What made Mack different from Jacobs and Hopkins was his approach. He didn't use hypnotic regression to search for abduction memories. Instead, he listened to people who came to him voluntarily, often in deep distress, describing experiences they couldn't explain. He used a therapeutic framework, not an investigative one. Harvard's response was unprecedented. The dean appointed a peer review committee to examine Mack's clinical methods. The first time in Harvard's 350-year history that a tenured professor faced such a review for the content of their research. 14 months later, the conclusion: Harvard reaffirmed Mack's academic freedom. He was not censured. He kept his tenure until his death in 2004. A Pulitzer Prize-winning Harvard professor investigated alien contact, published through a major publisher, survived an institutional investigation specifically designed to challenge his work, and kept his position. Harvard tried to shut the door. It couldn't. But none of that makes it true. The methodology behind all of this is deeply problematic. The American Psychological Association has warned against using hypnosis for memory recovery since the 1990s. Under hypnosis, subjects fill memory gaps with confabulated material. Memories that feel absolutely real but aren't. The brain doesn't distinguish between a real memory and one constructed under suggestion. Jacobs himself had no credentials in psychology or hypnotherapy. He was a history professor conducting clinical procedures. Harvard researcher Susan Clancy found in 2003 that people who believe they were abducted score significantly higher on fantasy proneness and false memory generation. Her book, Abducted, published by Harvard University Press, argued these aren't lies or mental illness. They're vivid false memories constructed from sleep paralysis, cultural knowledge, and hypnotic suggestion. Here's where it gets interesting. Roughly 8% of the general population experiences sleep paralysis at some point, waking up unable to move, often with the sensation of a presence in the room. Cross-culturally, this experience has been interpreted as demons, spirits, the old hag, alien visitors. The neuroscience is well documented. The brain is awake, the body is still in REM atonia, and the mind fills the gap with whatever framework is culturally available. Folklorist Thomas Bullard found something even more revealing. The child presentation element, abductees being shown hybrid offspring, has no documented precedent before Hopkins popularized it in the 1980s. Before his books, nobody reported it. After his books, everyone did. Critics call this narrative contamination. The researcher's framework becomes the experiencer's memory. Then in 1993, The X-Files premiered, its central mythology drawn directly from Hopkins and Jacobs' research. Dana Scully investigating hybrid programs, alien human experiments, government cover-ups. 20 million viewers per week absorbed a template for what hybridization looked like, what abduction felt like, what the conspiracy sounded like. The feedback loop accelerated. The circle closes on itself. Researchers publish a framework, subjects absorb it, their reports match. The researchers point to the consistency as evidence. Television amplifies it, and the loop feeds itself. You'd think that settles it. But in July 2023, something broke the pattern. David Grush testified under oath before the United States Congress. Former intelligence officer, 14 years of service, GS-15 at the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency. He told the House Oversight Committee that the government has been running covert programs to retrieve what he called non-human origin technical vehicles. The hearing room fell silent when Representative Tim Burchett asked about biological remains. Grush responded carefully. Non-human biologics were recovered. That was the assessment of people with direct knowledge on the program I talked to, that are currently still on the program. The Intelligence Community Inspector General, an independent oversight body within the U.S. government, formally assessed his disclosure as urgent and credible, a documented government action with legal weight. But Grush explicitly stated he had not personally seen any craft or biological material. His testimony was based on interviews with approximately 40 officials who told him about these programs. It's secondhand testimony. No physical evidence was presented publicly during that hearing. The Department of Defense denied the claims. Pull back far enough, and here's what you see. Decades of research built on methods science doesn't trust. A Harvard professor whose university tried to discredit him and failed. Sleep paralysis, false memory, cultural contamination, all offering clean explanations. A media feedback loop that may have manufactured the very phenomenon it was documenting, and a career intelligence officer who swore under oath that something real is being hidden, but who never saw it himself. None of it lines up. That's not a satisfying answer, but it's the true one. If the hybrid program is real, it's the most consequential secret in human history. If it's not, it's one of the most fascinating examples of how psychology, culture, and institutional failure can create a mythology indistinguishable from truth. I don't know which answer is correct. A Pulitzer Prize-winning professor thought the question was worth his career. A career intelligence officer thought it was worth testifying under oath. And millions of people around the world believe they've experienced something that science can't fully explain. What do you think? Greatest cover-up in history or greatest collective delusion? Subscribe to the Dark Mysteries Unveiled. Next episode, the classified military programs that experimented with psychic warfare. Soldiers trained to walk through walls. Remote viewers who claim to locate hostages from 1,000 miles away. The Pentagon documented it, Congress funded it, and the results were stranger than anyone expected. The Dark Mysteries Unveiled, where we examine what's on the record and what was supposed to stay off it.